He's responsible for his own life. He makes his own choices, and he becomes a sinner on his own, and he believes on his own, and he exercises faith on his own, and he is saved by pulling himself up by his own bootstrap. That is to accommodate the idea that is behind that whole system, and that is we can't make God responsible for evil. I really think that our Arminian theology, for the most part, is a device to get God off the hook. And how do they do it? Well, the bottom line is God is not responsible for evil. You are. That really doesn't help, because why did God create creatures who would be responsible for evil, knowing what they would do? Just backs the responsibility back to Him. The popular way nowadays that people in that category who don't want God to be responsible for evil in the world is to say that either He didn't have the knowledge that evil was coming, or He doesn't have the power to deal with it. One of the two. Either He, in His creation, made everything perfect and didn't know about evil's future existence, and so it caught Him off guard, or He knew, but He didn't have the power to stop it. Or He purposely limited His power to stop it for some higher value. Well, those are the kinds of things you have to deal with in this argument. Either God didn't know, didn't have the power, chose not to use the power because He had something even more important than evil, something of higher value in view. These kinds of criticisms are supposed to get God off the hook, but what they do is reinvent God. You reinvent a God who is not all-knowing. You reinvent a God who is not all-powerful. That's the only way out, and that's why that kind of theology exists. But let's follow along with, let's call the group one, the fact that God hasn't got the knowledge, that He doesn't have the information when He creates, so He doesn't know really what's going to happen. This would fit into the system called process theology. Process theology is a group that have reinvented God as a deity in progress. He is not the God today that He was yesterday because He knows more today, because more has happened today. And He's finding it out as it happens. This is also what openness theism believes. That God is in process. He is not now what He used to be. He's better now. The process has really helped Him. But He is not what He will be a week from now, because there will be more things that He'll discover as history unfolds. And with the unfolding of history came the unfolding of evil. And so God is off the hook because God just didn't know. God couldn't know because He couldn't know what hasn't happened. That is the openness approach. God can't be responsible for evil. Evil exists, and therefore God couldn't have known that it was coming until it showed up. In fact, they'll go so far as to say He hoped the best for Adam. So much for positive thinking, even on God's part. He's not omniscient, so when evil showed up, He had to come up with plan B, which was the cross. Well, you get the picture. These are people who lack a true and biblical view of God. They also lack a God-focused, God-exalting, God-dominated view of the universe. They look at things from a man-centered perch, and they need to be certain that God doesn't violate any of their rules. It can't be true that God has both the full knowledge of evil and the full power to prevent it and still let it come into existence, because that means He ordained it. There are people actually who aren't even that sophisticated. They're just short answer folks. We hinted at them earlier. You say, where did evil come from? And they'll say, oh, it came from Adam and Eve. Really? How did it get introduced to Adam and Eve? Well, oh yeah, that's right. It came from the snake. Well, how did the snake get to a place where he could be embodied by Satan? And how did Satan get to be Satan, in which he was tempting people to do evil? Oh, well, he came from heaven, didn't he? So where did evil originate? Evil originated where? In heaven? Yes, evil originated in heaven, in an angelic rebellion, right under the nose of God. You think that was a shock? Then you don't have a God who is absolutely omniscient. You think God couldn't stop it once it got going? Couldn't put an end to it right on the spot? Then you have a God who is not all-powerful. No matter how you deal with it, if you sustain the biblical doctrine of God, God becomes ultimately responsible for the existence of evil.
Wow. So there it is. If we're to retain a biblical view of God, we must accept God's responsibility for evil. Is that hard to swallow? Well, not when you consider the alternatives. God is sovereign. God is omnipotent. He is perfect. He ordains all things, including evil, to serve His will. The proof is all around us.
Brady was 14 when he passed away, and he was actually 10 years old when we first got diagnosed with brain cancer. And
this was just a laboratory, and they said, your doctors on the phone would like to speak to you about the results of this exam. And that's when my heart dropped. And I think that I was really shocked by the whole thing, and just trying to gain my composure back, because I had my little ones with me. And
my kid's really good at sports, and maybe go to college and whatnot. But my kid was just running up and down the floor, and I was thrilled that, hey, my kid can walk and run, you know, after him being laid up in a bed for a year or whatnot. So there's just joy of kind of seeing.
But I think that God has given us the ability to just live our lives without Brady. It's not something you think you can do, but the Lord gives grace. Be pleasing to God, not just Himself. And so that was really exciting to see that the dramatic difference between his being headstrong and selfish and always had to be right and proud, to really the Lord broke him to the point where he realized that he was nothing without the Lord. And so that was really one of the most wonderful things a parent could ever witness and experience.
Yeah.
Next time, we'll conclude this exciting series by examining the reasons God allows evil. Together, we'll discover 4 specific ways in which the existence of evil serves God's perfect plan. It's an eye-opening message you won't want to miss. Of course, you don't have to wait to take advantage of the ministry here at Grace to You. On radio and through the internet, you can hear John's Bible teaching messages 7 days a week. Just drop by our website at gty.org to find out where to catch the broadcast in your neighborhood. And as you do that, take a moment to pray about how God might use you to help us reach the world with His Word. Grace to You is supported by men and women just like you, believers who recognize the value of sound Bible teaching and who want to make it available to others. Your support, large or small, makes a difference. Thanks for joining us for today's broadcast. We'll see you next time.